Welcome back to the Big Blue Lifers podcast. I'm Mr. U. Jess is in the house. What's going on, brother?
None much, man. Happy to be talking some Giants. We actually have a little bit of news that came out today that I think we'll touch on. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but I know a lot of people are talking about it because we're at that stage in the offseason. People need something to talk about. So,
yep, some of the news that we're getting is on 3, and we're trying to put it on 10 because we miss our Giants, and we can't even talk fantasy. We can't even talk draft. We can't do any of that stuff until they start playing a little bit of ball. So this will be fun. Not sure how long we'll be on tonight, but we're gonna have some fun with this, man, and just kind of talk football. So last week we ran into a whole bunch of stuff, and we were kind of just going in with Russell Wilson in the quarterback room. I think one thing we're going to be doing, hopefully coming up soon, is kind of going in depth on a weekly basis with the position groups. I feel like we touched on the quarterback room. Even last week we did, but I don't feel like we really got deep into it. So as you already know, there's 11 positions on the team. We're going to get into all of those leading up to, I don't know how many days we are away from camp, but whatever that number is, I'm sure we can get in 11 weeks of in-depth position groups. So we'll be talking about those to kind of make us more acquainted with our team and the guys that we don't know very well, do a little research on them and find out where they are, what they do well, what they don't do well, see what to expect. But I want to ask you about Brian Daboll because I ran into this last week. I'm like, man, what should have happened before we got off air last week? But it feels like, let me just ask you the question and we get into what we think about it. But where do you rank Brian Daboll as a head coach out of 32 teams? I know that there's a lot of things that happened that were not on him. I mean, if you know football, you know there's something you can't blame him for. But there's some things that were decision-making stuff. But where do you rank him as a head coach out of 32 teams? This is your Jess Saban's head coach rankings.
that is tough. Because I don't think he makes the top 10. Because I think there are certain guys that I just have to give respect to, whether I like it or not. Like, obviously, you got guys like Andy Reid, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan. Then you get into the, Dan Campbell, Mike Tomlin, Sean Payton, both of the Harbaugh brothers, although I think is it Jim or John? Jim. Jim is the one with the Chargers. He's only been in there for 1 year, but the team just looked infinitely better in his 1 year than it did like the year prior. I don't know where to rank a guy like Pete Carroll. He had been on a bit of a downturn when he left, but now he's back, and you just know he's going to be better than pretty much anything the Raiders have had the past, 5 years. God. And what about, the Kevin O'Connells, the Matt LaFleur? There are all these guys. There's just so many great head coaches, and Daboll has had success. We saw what he was able to do with that 2022 Giants team, but he hasn't done anything outside of it. Now, like you said, some of that's on him. Some of that's on, things outside of his control, like injuries and, he, at the end of the day, Shane and depending on who you believe, Mara have the final say with the roster construction, but I think Brian Daboll is somewhere in that 16th to 18th best head coach in football. But as an offensive mind, I think he's a lot higher. We just need to see it. He's one of the guys whose ranking I could see skyrocket with a good year this year. But they're just guys who have been way more consistent, have just had better results. I mean, I don't think Sirianni's a great head coach, but as much as it pisses me off, the man has been able to turn this Eagles team around, and they've been to 2 Super Bowls under him. They've won one of them. Like that has to mean something. You know, I think schematically, Daboll runs laps around Sirianni. I think he runs laps around Dan Campbell, but what those guys have done, there's no denying it.
I thought about this for a good bit because I was seeing so many comments. I guess you're just coming my way about him being either he was one of or the worst coach in the entire league according to the comments. I'm like, sure, okay. I know that some of that stuff is piling on the Giants. I mean, you and I, we know this, and we're going to deal with this stuff all season. A lot of it is piling on. It has nothing to do with anything that legitimately you can point your finger to, nothing tangible. It's just people in their feelings, or just think, oh, they're trash, or they're rival teams who love dumping us and kicking us when we're down, or so-called fans who hate everything that we do, even after winning the Super Bowl, they're still mad. So it kind of depends on person. But I looked at this. I didn't try to find a ranking. I heard so much stuff. I'm like, wow, I know you can't be as bad as people say. But I found one ranking. I think it was in either Pro Football Talk, I think it was, or NBC Sports, where he's the absolute last coach in the ranking, excluding first-year coaches. So guys like Liam Cohen with the Jaguars or Aaron Glenn with the Jets. Those are the only coaches that are behind him. So that means Shane Steichen is over him. That means Brian Callahan, 3-14 record, is over him. That means Dave Canales, 5-12. You could tell he had no idea what was going on offensively on his team. Past year or so, or even 2 years, right? He's over him. I'm like, wow. I'm trying to figure out where he sits there. I can't believe. I like what you said. I probably will go a little under yours because honestly, he had a lot of fame as an assistant and did a lot of great things that contributed to Josh Allen's success and his trajectory, if you will. You know, but there's some things that we had some questions about that we saw, decision-making stuff. And could a different coach had a different result? Hindsight is 2020. I have no idea if anybody could have did anything with what we had, what we were looking at. Should have run Barkley more that year than they did. Honestly, we can sit back and banter about it, but I honestly don't know. So I'm not here to say he's a bad coach, but to be basically dead last in second-year coaches, unbelievable. I mean, we had some problems on the Giants schematically and personnel-wise. Remember that year when we had so many injuries? We had nobody to play almost nowhere.
Mm-hmm. That's every Giants season, it feels like, for the past 20 years.
he had to coach that. I mean, these guys on Twitter swear they can do better, but honestly, put me in that spot, I'm not sure I can do better. Daboll has NFL experience. What am I going to do better than what he did? So I think he should be a little bit lower because he has areas where he has to kind of prove it. But man, they got him at rock bottom in this poll, and I'm pretty sure that you can find the poll on your side over there. You're probably going to see the same thing. Daboll's going to be near the bottom somewhere. I'm like, wow, is he really that bad? A coach?
Yeah, it was the NBC. They have him 25th of
that's the one,
and
that's
last
the one.
4 new hires.
I can't get with that. You can't tell me. No. Even Jonathan Gannon, you gonna tell me he was a better coach? He's at 21. You gonna tell me he was better than? I'm having a hard time with that.
Brian Callahan,
I'm having a hard time with that.
Jonathan Gannon definitely aren't better. I would put him over Mike McDaniel. I would put him over Mike McDonald. I think he should be in that tier with the likes of Stefanski, Todd Bowles, Zach Taylor, because people seem to forget that the 2023 Giants, who finished 6-11, were a healthy kicker and a drop 2-point a drop 2-point conversion, and one no call in the final seconds from being 9-8 and in the playoffs for back-to-back years. 2024 was way worse, but 2023 with Tommy DeVito and Tyrod Taylor, that team was fighting. They had that 3-game win streak that everybody complained about, that took them out, but they were a healthy kicker against the Jets. And I guess also then against the Bills, and they were a healthy kicker for most of that year. It felt like,
a good bit.
Bills, there was the no call on Waller in the end zone as time expired. The Jets, we didn't have a healthy kicker, and we couldn't throw. We finished with negative passing yards that day. You and I had more passing yards than the New York Giants that day. And then against the Rams, Saquon catches that 2-point conversion. Maybe the Giants don't win. Maybe the Rams are able to get in the field goal range in X amount of time or whatever. But the Giants were entering the final few minutes, or maybe even less, I don't remember, of that game with a lead. And that win over the Rams would have given us the tiebreaker over them, and the Giants are the seventh seed or so, because we had already beaten the Packers. And so again, we can talk about this in hindsight. None of that happened, but I do think Brian Daboll has to get some level of, respect for what he has been able to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
The man knows his stuff. He's not hapless out there. His biggest issue has honestly been maintaining his relationships with the other guys on the staff. We know that Kafka and him have had some issues regarding the play calling. That's gone back and forth. It seems like it's back with Kafka and right now. Wink Martindale and him famously did not go out on good terms. Other coaches have been hesitant to come in for a variety of reasons, one of which I most certainly believe is, Daboll's fiery personality, to put it nicely. But I think most of it is, for so many of these guys, I think it's splitting hair. There are so many good head coaches right now, so many guys that people have a lot of respect for. Just looking at the top of this list, you got Reed, McVay, Harbaugh, Shanahan, Sirianni, who I think again is a bit overrated, but you have to give him his flowers.
Super Bowl was, man, you can't say that about that. You got Super Bowl, man. They're going to push you just because of that part. You get
Mike
it.
Tomlin's never had a losing season. Sean McDermott is probably a bit overrated. Matt LaFleur, Kevin O'Connell, both been really good. Sean Payton, all-time legend. Dan Quinn really helped turn around the Commanders. Zach Taylor, mixed feelings about him. Todd Bowles, maybe he should be a little higher. Kevin Stefanski has had his ups and downs, that's for sure. D'Amico Ryans, another one where I'm like, Mike
Dude,
McDaniel,
this is hard, man.
Falling off a cliff from his early glory days as the, hot new commodity on the block with those Dolphins. Mike McDonald, 1 year, good year, but 1 year. Shane Steichen has, another guy who everybody thought was going to be hot stuff, looked like it for a year and hasn't exactly lived up to the hype. Jonathan Gannon, not great. Raheem Morris has not been good in his career. He's only been with the Falcons for 1 year, but he has not been good in his career. Dave Canales, not off to the hottest start. Brian Callahan's not off to the hottest start. And give Daboll flowers. Come on.
This is rough, man. This is rough. Those of you guys that are watching and listening to Big Blue Lifers podcast, we're talking about Brian Daboll and how you'd rank him as a head coach out of 32 teams. I think we're under the agreement that he is way too low. You got guys that are one miss away from being coordinators again, and they ranked higher than he is. That's insane to me. They have a worse record longer than he has, and they rank higher than him. There's something wrong with that. So we definitely won't spend a whole lot of time there. I don't know how much we can say beside that. But I guess I just wonder out loud, since we're talking about it right now, how do you define one of the best head coaches? Because everybody's not winning the Super Bowl. So are we going by record? Are we going by your ability to withstand adversity on your team? But there are guys that you named that are above Daboll, probably by 5 or 7 points above him, that their team had nightmarish stuff going on. And they kind of were able to still win some games. They had deficiencies. The quarterback was turning the ball over, and they still were going to the playoffs. So how do we define? This is just a question we don't have to answer today, but how do you define one of the best head coaches? How do you define that? Because if it's record, is that because of the head coach? If it's a bad record, is that because of the head coach? What's he actually responsible for that will allow us to rank him appropriately? What do we base it on? It's kind of to me, it feels like a moving target.
Yeah, no,
it's really hard.
100% agree with that sentiment.
So I don't know how we do that. I don't know. I'm just saying there's no way he can be the last guy out of second year coaches or above. There's no way. You're blaming him for something that's going on that team that may not be his fault. Those injuries weren't his fault. The church situation, people getting ACLs left and right, that wasn't his fault. So what are you blaming him for exactly? Giving up Saquon? I'm sure he had a part in that. But that makes him one of the worst head coaches in the whole league? Wow. That's a big stretch for me, though. But, yeah.
I mean, I will end on this. Because you know me, I can just keep going forever and ever. I think it is absolutely fair to say Daboll entering the season is number one on the hot seat list. I think that's
number one.
Yeah, I think Mara's statements after the season certainly didn't help. And while I think that would be really dumb considering they just drafted Jackson Dart, I do think it is absolutely fair to have that, if that's your ranking. Me personally, I think I would have him closer to 5 than 1 simply because of the Jackson Dart, what variable. I think guys like Mike McDaniel, I think you could have Sean McDermott up there. Fairly, maybe Raheem Morris. I don't know, but Daboll, having Daboll in the back half, I think is fair. Just with there's so many head coaches that I think are very good, but having him be of the not entering their first year.
No how. I'm sorry.
Absolutely ridiculous.
You can't do it. I know that we're the punching bag right now. Even the Panthers don't get beat down. Not in Carolina, so I know what they get and what they don't get. And they're not getting punched around like we are. We're the laughing stock in so many ways, and some of it's not even deserved. You know what I'm saying? But there's been improvement that nobody talks about that you and I look at. We see the stats, we see the numbers and the analysis. But the casual fan has no idea we improved in our defense to the point where we're in the top 10 in pass rush rate. Tongue twister there, pass rush rate, win rate. Nobody even talks about that kind of stuff. So we're not, even the year before that, the O-line improved. In 2024, they improved from 2023. They were abysmal in 2023. And they improved. Nobody talks about that kind of stuff. So we can't be the very, very absolute bottom feed, the very worst. I don't think we are, but we're going to have to fight through some conception or misconception, if you will. And we're going to have to go out here and win games and do things that people say we can't do. I say we like we playing, right? But you get what I'm saying. The Giants. Okay. All right, so let's move on. All right, so we got a trade. The Giants are involved in a trade. My question is, when's the last time have you heard that?
I
don't even know when it's
non-draft,
happened. I don't remember.
non-draft day, then this is.
I don't know when this. I don't recall when this happened.
Probably
we involved in
I think it was the Darren Waller trade a couple of years ago now.
So we're actually doing this. We're playing a reverse game now. So we just found out that Darren Waller is returning to the NFL. For all you guys that are Giants fans and Darren Waller fans, he's not coming back to the Giants though. The Giants are sending Darren Waller after a year off due to retirement. He had 350 receptions, a little over 4,100 receiving yards, 20 touchdowns on the Pro Bowl nod. He's going to the Miami Dolphins with a 2027 conditional draft pick in the 7th round for a 6th round selection from the Dolphins. And Tom Pelissero from NFL Network reported that. So while he's coming back to the NFL, he's just not coming back to the Giants. I've seen comments about it already, like, oh, it's because of Daniel Jones. No, it's not. If it was about that, he'd be running back to us so fast because there's a potential for him to actually win the tight end 1 job with the Giants right now. And he got eyes, he can see that. So the fact that he's not coming back to us and not fighting for that, he didn't want to be with the Giants for other reasons, and Daniel Jones had nothing to do with that. Let that man live. Leave Daniel Jones alone. He's not even on the team anymore. Let that man be free. He may not do nothing in the NFL, but leave that man alone. Darren Waller's not coming back for a different reason, but he's going to the Miami Dolphins. They gave up Jonnu Smith in a trade a few days ago, I guess, or yesterday, whatever it was, to the Pittsburgh, to the Steelers, Pittsburgh, I think it was. Yep. So a lot of moves being made. They weren't using him well there anyways. I think part of it was a Tua problem, but that's just my personal opinion. Ain't trying to offend no Dolphins fans, but it is what it is in my assessment. But Waller's going in to try to help Tua out. Hopefully that happens. If he's healthy, that may be a good thing for Tua. But not big news, but what do you think, man? Waller to the Dolphins, and we get a 6th.
I mean, I'm happy we got the 6th round pick.
There you go. We can use that. We can use that.
I mean, this is so. Nothing about the football side of this is even remotely interesting to me. But like the Darren Waller as a person aspect is.
You want to hear him rap? Is that what you're saying? Because I don't want to hear that.
No, I have no desire to hear him rap.
Okay. Just checking.
No desire to hear him rap. No desire to hear Kadarius Toney rap. No desire to hear really any NFL player rap. I think the one guy like Iman Shumpert in the NBA, you know, the former Knick, he could spit some bars. He could sing. But yeah, wow. Darren Waller. But that's what's so interesting to me because I don't even know if it was a month ago now. Maybe it was a month. It feels like it hasn't been a full month since that clip of him on the podcast coming out where he's like, yeah, we were playing Buffalo. And then I looked up at the night sky. I'm like, I'm done. And I'm like, that came out, it feels like so recently. And now he's unretiring to go play for the Dolphins, who I guess he's guaranteed the starting job. I don't know who else the Dolphins have.
Real guaranteed?
I mean, at the very least, it is far more likely he's starting in Miami than he does in New York. I mean, hold on. Let me see who the Miami Dolphins.
It's not going to help. I know where you're going. It's not going to help you. Those names are not going to blow you out of the water. So perhaps
let's see.
It is a guarantee.
They have
Pharaoh Brown, dude.
Pharaoh Brown, Julian Hill, Tanner Connor, Jalin Conyers, Hayden Ritchie. I mean, like they had Jonnu Smith. They didn't want to pay him, so they traded him. Then Darren Waller, I guess, was like, hey, Miami's really cool. I'd love to live there. I've known, look, again, it's a 6th round pick. I'm glad we got anything for him. I doubt he does anything. And if he does, congratulations.
Yeah. Okay. There ain't a whole lot to it. I think the more interesting thing, and we ain't gonna stay here because we don't want to violate what the show's about. But I think the Jonnu Smith of Pittsburgh is way more interesting. I mean, you got Smith on one side, you got Frymouth in them 2 tight end sets. I don't know what Rodgers can do with that because of where he's at age-wise, but that's a fantastic tight end room to start with. So much better than what Miami, you just laid out, has in their hands. So, it's like a nightmare. All right, let's talk more Giants. It's been a few weeks. We've been hearing about Malik Davis having issues with his toes. I heard that he's doing fine now and there's no problems. He should be ready for camp. They always say that kind of stuff. It's not really like, it's not really a big surprise there. Tell me what you think about this, because I'm wondering, every time I hear a toe issue, I think about the time that, and this is just mere coincidence, but I think about Beckham's time with us. I think he had a toe injury when he was with us as well, if I'm not mistaken. And I think about the problem that he had with it, how he had to get off of the field and he couldn't, his snaps were limited during that time. And then I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think he went out for an extended time. If I'm wrong on that, forgive me, guys. I seem to recall that happening. So should the Giants bring in another wide receiver just to make sure that we don't lose anything in depth? I'm not saying Gabe Davis. I'm just saying another wide receiver to kind of I don't mean some guy who ain't going to play. I mean guys that are available that can still help. What do you think about that, man? Are you concerned about the toe at all, or do you think it's no big deal?
I'm not concerned about the toe at all. Odell had a history with ankles, not toes, I believe. But I might be misremembering, him having.
Both things can be true.
No. But I remember what he really suffered with that kept him out was ankles. I mean, he's had the toe injury since coming out from LSU, so he's it didn't affect him last year. What kept him out of games last year was that concussion that he suffered. It wasn't anything with the toe. So I'm not worried at all. If they were to bring anybody in, it would have to be a guy that probably isn't really going to be playing because the Giants don't really have much cap space left. Because I doubt they're going to be able to go out and be like, hey, Amari Cooper, sign with us for a vet minimum. Hey, I don't even know who else.
That would be shocking.
Gabe Davis would be Odell.
Gabe Davis is still there, but that's
Gabe Davis. You want to come?
I don't know who else.
Maybe Amari Cooper sure as heck won't be. But that kind of ties into another thing that I wanted to talk about. With the little cap space remaining, who should they go out and sign? And I've been saying this, and I think you said this as well. Prior to the draft, Brandon Sheriff. He's still a free agent. He had one of his best pass blocking seasons last year. Why not bring him in? Because the interior of our offensive line has very little depth. Would he be willing to come in for dirt cheap? Maybe. Clearly, not a lot of people are knocking down his door offering him some big contracts. Could he come in on the Giants on a 1-year, $5 million kind of deal? I mean, I think it'd be worth, calling him up, offering him something like that. Like, hey, man, what are you looking at here? Because the Giants were active in free agency trying to sign guards. They were one of the last ones to be offering I forget his name, who went and signed with the Vikings. But he was one of the best guards on the market, and the Giants were trying to get him in.
Yeah.
Guard is a concern.
Was it Freed?
Freeze. Yeah, thank you. But why not, call up Brandon Scherf and be like, hey, come on in. Let's see how you do. To me, that's what they should do with some of their money.
Yeah. The one thing to go into this list, this is the first time I've seen this particular list. I was in a different one. We're going to talk about it last week. Going into this list is the epitome of a rabbit hole. I'm just telling you that in advance. I don't know what else is going to happen on this show. Now that I see some of these names in here, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm seeing names that, okay, if we, after Neighbors and Slayton, I think we have some legitimate places where we have some potential questions. We don't know if Lil Jordan's going to be the wide receiver 3 that we need. We're just hoping for that size and potential. We're just hoping that it comes through in this. He's been on different teams, so we're kind of just hoping there. And then Wandale, I mean, he got speed and route running and stuff. I get that. I'm a little bit shaky about it. Jalin Hyatt, we may get a chance to talk about that today, projecting his season. But let me name some of the guys at wide receiver. Matt, tell you the truth, if I go through the whole list, excluding quarterback, and I guess running back too, but down the list, there's some very intriguing names on this list. I wish I could. I'm gonna send it so you can see it. But basically, right now, so what I see wide receiver wise, check it out. We already mentioned the aforementioned Amari Cooper. We're not doing that. Keenan Allen is still out on the street. Is that right? I didn't know that. We already mentioned Gabe Davis. Aguilar's not washed up. He's not like, oh, he's too bad to be a wide receiver. That's not true. Tyler Boyd is still on the street. I'm surprised he didn't go back to the Bengals. So I'm really shocked by that. When DJ Chark has some injury issues, but I'm not sure where he is. You mentioned Kadarius Toney, but he ain't welcome. So we're keeping him out of this. Allen Robinson, I think we already tried to walk with him. That didn't work out too well, bringing him on. But those are just a few names of guys that I think, and we're just talking about trying to take the wide receiver 3 spot. Please, that's not hard at all. Not with those guys. I mean, and we can go to the tight end. You mentioned Scherf, which I thought was really good. I mean, on the line. They got guys that are, as far as the tight ends go, we'll get into that when we talk positions and stuff. There's guys there, man. I'm like, I'm not really thinking about them. Some of the guys I think about that can really help us, guys like Mike Hilton are still out there. He's just 31 years old, and he's still capable of playing cornerback at a high level. He's not like his skills are falling off. Look at a guy like Asante Samuel Jr., 25 years old, and he can't buy a job. But it's tackling issues that are behind that. Issues with press coverage. He's been struggling with that. So a guy that's 25-year-old that doesn't have an attitude issue, and it's the son of a former veteran and can't get a job, that's very, very very telling. Justin Simmons is still out there at safety. He's 31 years old too. I mean, and you mentioned Brandon Scherf. Julian Blackman, this kid 27 years old, and he's been competent at safety. So I don't know if it's a money thing. I don't know what it is with him, but that's a weird thing. And you got this guy might not be able to get here, but at tackle, Jedrick Wills is still out there. I think he was with the Bucks, I think. He's still out there. Dude is 26 years old. Massive dude. Massive piece of man meat. I mean, he'd be fantastic at tackle. I mean, there's so many things. I'm like, wow. But then, like you mentioned earlier, look at the salary cap. What, 3.8?
Yeah.
$8. I was like, we don't have a lot of money to spend. I'm like, what do we do here? So it's just something to think about, man. There's a lot of talent still out there, man. On the old line, man. These guys, man. Tell you the truth, I'll take a few of these guys over some of the guys that we got. Even with the Evan Neal experience, these guys on this list, I'll take over Evan Neal right now. I don't care if he's doing good at guard. I feel like, okay, whatever. Too little, too late. I'm ready to move on. So there's just a lot there, man. But so I guess the answer to the question is, what should you do with the salary cap left? Your answer is do nothing. Don't get anybody, or try to get Scherf in at a discount rate.
I mean, for me, it would be let's just get somebody in there that can really help out with the offensive line. I think Sheriff Will Hernandez. We gotta get that interior, set up. So
I'm asking about Will Hernandez. I was just thinking about him. You like him to come back to us?
if we were to throw some money his way, I mean,
Throw
again,
some money. Do we have money to throw?
yeah, again, if these guys are willing to come in, here's a 1 year, $2 million contract, I think Sheriff is better than Hernandez, and Hernandez is coming off of an injury. I think Sheriff is too, but it's not as talked about in some of these articles that I'm looking at. The knee injury to Hernandez is the first thing that is mentioned when it comes to Sheriff.
That's fair though.
How many games did he play last season?
Who's talking about Hernandez?
Sheriff. Brandon.
Oh.
Games per season. Yeah, he started 17 games last year.
Yeah. I got a good buddy that's a Jaguars fan, and he didn't have anything good to say. I'm like, man, but the guy was available. You know how hard did it be?
I doubt he's some great player. There's a reason he's there's a reason all these guys are still free agents. But if the Giants were to throw some of their very little remaining money at somebody in free agency, I would prefer it be on an interior offensive lineman than another wide receiver.
I'm at a point now. I'm starting to get greedy. We can move on to the next topic because I think we need to. But I'm really greedy right now because I made a mistake of looking at the free agents on the edge rusher.
This game you're playing,
man. There's 3 guys in them. Could you imagine if these guys are on our squad? I love me some Matt Judon. Could you imagine? Even Ngakwe, if he was on, man, Zadarius Smith, he's been consistent for a minute now. He's not a scrub whatsoever. Man, that would be far beyond anything I've seen on defense, maybe even in history. But right now, we loaded right now, so I'm sure it's not on their minds. But let me ask you this, man. As far as the best case scenarios go, I've been wanting to ask you this for about 2 weeks. Best case scenario for the Giants, what do you think that is? And I don't mean record-wise. I mean position play on the field. What do you think is the best case scenario for us? Massive production from our wide receivers? Is it his tight ends? Is it the running game and the backs getting what do you think is the best case scenario for us that if this happens, our opportunities to do the impossible, like we discussed last week, get exponentially higher? What's the best case scenario for us?
I think
it's not a good start with.
Well, I mean, a lot of best case. I mean, best case scenario. Within reason, I think a best case scenario would be that we lead the league in sacks.
Okay.
I think that is realistic. I think that is, we have maybe the best defensive line in football if you include ends and edge rushers. I think that's again, it's a little out there, but I think it's realistic. I think a best case scenario that I talked about last pod was I heard God, I forget who it was right now. I think it was Bad Dog. Saying Darius Slayton goes for 1,000 yards with the deep ball from Russell Wilson. I think that's a realistic, again, a little out there, but I don't think crazy, best case scenario for someone on our team. Best case scenario, Andrew Thomas stays healthy. And,
that'd be great.
That might be the least likely one, sadly.
God almighty.
But yeah, so I think Russell Wilson could lead to some best case scenarios with that offense, but I don't know how high those best case scenarios would be.
No, that's fair. I like the defense to break records. I think that will help push our cachet, if you will, and kind of put us into a different echelon in contending, not only in the division, but just the schedule that we have. So I'm kind of putting all my chips on the defense. I want to see the tight ends produce more, but I don't know whether that will move the needle by itself. With Slayton going 1,000, okay, so does that mean Neighbors is going 1,000 too? You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to just figure that out. And they both go 1,000, definitely top 3 in best case scenario, because we haven't seen that. I don't know if we've ever seen it. So having 2 of your 2 top guys going for 1,000 yards. I mean, the only people who come close, if not have broken that, will probably be with the Bengals with T. Higgins and Chase. They may have done that or close to it, but it's rare to see that. So I know that JJ and Addison haven't done it in Minnesota. So it's like that's a big scenario, because people are saying that Neighbors going to do the same thing. So I guess 2 things can be true, but that would be a very, very good situation for us to stay competitive and stay in games. So speaking about wide receiver, we've been dancing around this man for the past month or so. Jalin Hyatt. We know he's getting real cozy with Russell Wilson. Probably these guys not going to Chipotle together. I'm sure they're doing that too. Tell me what the prediction is for him, because for me, I feel like something. If he does marginally well, better than he did, or even doubles his production from last year, that's only good for our team. It causes the opposing defensive backs to have to pay attention to him and take their attention off of Neighbors / Slayton. If they don't do that, that leaves Hyatt open more, and we can capitalize on that, and we'll score a lot more points than we have been. So it's good if he does anything productive. But it's like he's so far in the back of this depth chart that's like, what can we expect here? I mean, we kind of forgetting about Wandale a little bit. I'm not, but it's like I don't even know where to even put him. I just feel like after Slayton, it's like I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know who we can rely on, even with having a viable option at quarterback. What's your prediction for Hyatt's season?
So I'm going to start with this. I think that the top 3 is set, and I don't think anybody's challenging it. Neighbors, Slayton, Wandale. I think you have Neighbors and Slayton on the outside, Wandale being an excellent slot option. I don't think anybody is really challenging any of their jobs. Last year, they wanted Hyatt to challenge Slayton. They wanted him to kind of emerge as this, good outside deep threat option, but the consistency just wasn't there. I think Hyatt is the wide receiver 4 currently. I don't think he's buried on the depth chart. Like, I don't think Jordan Humphreys or any of these UDFAs are really pushing for his job right now, especially with what's seemingly emerged about his connection with Russell Wilson. But at the same time, I don't think he's really going to be getting some phenomenal snap count. Like, I don't think he's going to be overtaking Slayton or Hyatt, not Hyatt, or Wandale Robinson. I don't think he's challenging them for their positions, their jobs, or anything. I could definitely see him, though, finishing the year with like 20-something catches, 400-something yards, 3 touchdowns. I could see him being a decent contributor as a wide receiver 4. But after that, it's going to be interesting to see if he's going to want to stay with the Giants or go somewhere else where he thinks maybe he'll have more of a starting opportunity. But yeah, I think he's going to be a solid enough wide receiver 4. I think they're going to tell him, come in, hey, run deep. And Russell Wilson's going to be like, I like throwing deep. And they'll have a few big connections like that. But I don't see him coming out and having like a 700-yard, 6-touchdown season or anything.
Dude, I don't even know. I don't even have a number to throw out. Normally I have something like that. I don't even have one to throw out. Whatever it is that he's, let me take a look at what he did last year. Last year, he had, I thought I knew this by heart. He had 8 receptions for 62 yards last year. No touchdowns. Which I think he played in 16 games last year. 62 total yards. So he wasn't looked at in any way, shape, or form. When I said double the production, I'm kind of hoping for something better than that. Just getting 140 yards. I'm like, dude, those aren't even wide receiver 4 numbers. You can do better than that. So my hope is that that's what happens. But do you even like him as a? I mean, for us, do you? Because you mentioned about being traded or being on a different team. Is that your preference? Would you rather have somebody else instead of him there, or do you like this reclamation project known as Jalin Hyatt?
I
don't have any Jeopardy music, but I wish I did right now. That'd be awesome.
I think he's good. I think he's got potential. He hasn't developed as a route runner. He hasn't seemingly developed a way to beat good press coverage. He seemingly has put on a lot of muscle, which could definitely help with that. But you have to be able to run routes in this league. So I think his future is at right now as it stands right now. I think he's going to be at best a wide receiver 3 in this league. That is as good as I think Jalin Hyatt is going to be. Do with that as a project as you will, like. So
yeah, I love that he put on 20 more pounds. I know we're just talking about a wide receiver 4, so I know it's probably time for us to go now. But I know he put on 20 pounds. I think you mentioned that last week why that was a necessity based on what he was dealing with. So he's definitely trying, and you want to give the guy an E for effort. He's trying to do something to kind of help his cachet and help him stay on the field and be productive. I don't know, man. I don't even. I mean, sell me on Wandale. I don't even know. I seen flash of the things last year or so, but I don't even know where I'm at with that. I hope I never have to talk about him in any detail without having research first, because I'm like, I have no idea what to even say about him. I'm not saying he's Jalin Hyatt, but I'm like, I won't dispute what you said, that he's the wide receiver 3, and it's not even close. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. But I don't even know what that is, though. What is that? I don't know. But
I don't even know, man. Like I had such high hopes for him coming out.
Which guy? Are you talking about Wandale or are you talking about
Hyatt? Hyatt. I mean, Wandale is a good slot receiver that I don't think will ever be anything more. Now, he has shown, I think he's better than Wandale. I think is better than a lot of people have made him out to be. Because I think with Daniel Jones, they didn't really have a certain verticality to the offense that Daboll certainly wanted. And Wandale, despite his size, showed in college he could be a decent vertical threat, nothing special, but that was something he could do. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think again, we're talking about our wide receiver 3 and our wide receiver 4.
Yeah. And now, and the reason why there's always a method to my madness. I don't just do this spitball. There's a point where I brought it up. We just got to finish off my neighbors in his toe. Mm-hmm. The man has a problem with that. We don't want that to happen, but unless you heard something different, not sure what he did with the turf situation. So I don't know if they fixed that. I haven't seen it. If you see it, send it to me. We'll talk about it next week. But that could be a problem for somebody who has toe issues. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's definitely a problem for anybody who has an ACL. It's a problem for anybody who has one. So the toe is like, that's not a good situation. So if anything bad happens, God forbid, you're talking about Slayton being at the 1, then Rondé moving up to the 2, which I don't think is ideal. And then you got a Hyatt or some combination of Lord Jordan Humphrey being at wide receiver 3. Do you feel better about that? I just like after a season or 2 or 3, we had so many depth issues and stuff. I'm like, I want to just guard against that. I want it to be stacked everywhere. I think it's better for us. I know it's not ideal salary cap wise. It's just better for us to do that because look what happens. Look what could potentially happen right now. So I'll let you go ahead and shut us down, man. Just something that I've been thinking about. Go ahead.
Sorry, say again.
Oh, I'll let you go ahead and have the last say. Then we'll go ahead and shut down.
I don't have anything more to say. Again, I think, an interesting question that I saw proposed on, I forget if it was, I think it was Talking Giants with Justin.
Yeah.
Who would you rather see have a big breakout year, Hyatt or Evan Neal? For me, I would rather see Evan Neal have a big breakout year than Hyatt because I just think Hyatt is buried on the depth chart a bit. And I think if we could get good guard play, I mean, you and I always talk about you win in the trenches. Giants have always been able to dominate the trenches. That's where they've had the most success. I think, be it this upcoming draft or maybe wait till 2027, depending on how things fall, there's going to be a lot of guys coming out that could, I mean, it's mean to say, but easily replace Hyatt. So I don't have much more to say about our wide receiver room at this point. We're going to talk a bit more in depth about that. I think a few weeks down the line here when we start going more into the positional breakdowns. I think it's going to be really. I think that position group when we were talking with Nick Filato, I think that's going to be the group we are partially. I think we're going to want to see how this offensive line is holding up in camps. I think we're going to want to see how the defensive, pass rush is holding up. But I think wide receivers, seeing who's getting what snaps, who's being targeted, is going to be very interesting come August.
Copy that. But this has been fun, brother. We are still waiting for some semblance of news, any semblance of news. And then, of course, hopefully camp. I forgot how many days it's going to be from now, but my last check was I think last week was 75, 76 days last week. So I guess we're still in the high 60s waiting for camp to show up. So excited about this, man. All Giants all the time, man. So we're excited about this. Can't wait for the season to start. This will be our first one together. So super pumped about that. We're going to be watching games, watching tape. Our phones will be blowing up, sending each other information. It's going to be insane. So I'm just excited about that part, man. But you got to be doing this with you, brother. It's definitely an honor, man. And we are the Big Blue Lifers podcast. I'm Mr. U. That's Jess. We're out of here. Have a great day. Thanks again for watching.